You! Make sure before we begin that you like this video right now, or else you will catch a Kamehameha to the face. Dragon Ball Z Budokai and Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi. If you ask any Dragon Ball fan who grew up in the 90s or early 2000s or mention these mere words to them, then they will have dozens of pleasant flashbacks and memories flowing through their head right now. In fact, right now, you watching this video might actually be getting these same flashbacks that I'm speaking of. Picture this! It's Friday afternoon, you just finished school, your friend comes over, you pop the Budokai Tenkaichi 3 disc into the PlayStation 2 on your box square TV, and you play all day and night. Life was just perfect then. Also, if I painted the picture in your head for you, then I deserve a subscribe, so do it right now, subscribe. Anyways, the Budokai and Budokai Tenkaichi games are the ultimate sources of Dragon Ball Z gaming nostalgia. One does not simply trash on or disrespect these games, and if you do, you are probably a 10-year-old whose mother never loved them and dad left them to go buy milk, but then found a new mommy with nice mommy milkers, and then eventually she kidnapped and devoured him. But I digress. These games are iconic, legendary. But yet, there's some misconceptions about these games that I wish to clear up in this video, so stay tuned right up until the end because you might just learn something unlike in school. So Dragon Ball Z Budokai 1 came out in 2002. This was actually the first DBZ game that I've ever played on console. The following year we got Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2 in 2003, and then to cap things off we got Budokai 3 in 2004. The following year we got Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 1, the first Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi game in 2005. What fans need to understand and realize that although the names of these games are similar, they are two different series, and some of you might already know this, but keep watching because I've got more myths to be coming up afterwards. The Budokai games and the Budokai Tenkaichi games are not the same. And when I made a video talking about how Dragon Ball Z Infinite World is the 4th main entry in the Budokai series that you can check out in the top right corner on the screen right now, I was getting comments like, actually, you're actually incorrect. There is 7 in total. Budokai 1, 2, and 3, Budokai Tenkaichi 1, 2, and 3, and Infinite World is just a spin-off. Like, shut up, bro. Do some research, or better yet, play the goddamn games and see for yourself. Completely different series. 2 completely different series. Different looks and aesthetics and feels and styles of play. They are not the same. In fact, the Budokai Tenkaichi series in Japan is known as the Sparking series. You got Dragon Ball Z Sparking, Sparking Neo, and Sparking Meteor, and the next Sparking game is set to come out late next year, early next year, mid next year, we don't know yet, but you can check out all my videos discussing that in the playlist on the top right corner on the screen right now. They changed the names of the Sparking games to Budokai Tenkaichi to help market them off the back of Budokai 3's success. So it was kind of smart, but it also created some confusion between fans. But if you look at the games, the Budokai games are 3D fighting games with elements from Dragon Ball Z mixed in, whereas the Tenkaichi games are more akin to the actual Dragon Ball Z style with more freedom of movement and realistic-like feel, anime-like feel. Again, both legends and trailblazers of the PS2 era, both iconic games of their generation.
Let's end this, Omega Shenron! I'll send you to the next world!
Now let's talk about the spin-offs and the successors, because with these there's a lot more leeway, I think. I mentioned Dragon Ball Z Infinite World earlier and how I consider it to be Budokai 4, and I really think that's the truth, because if you look at it, it's literally just an updated version of Budokai 3, but with slight differences. The gameplay is almost identical. Character models, special moves, everything pretty much. Only thing that it's lacking is the name, which also was definitely a choice. I don't know what they were thinking. Then we get the PSP titles. Some of the greatest Dragon Ball Z games ever were on the PSP. Dragon Ball Z Shin Budokai and Shin Budokai Another Road are what I would consider as spin-offs. They aren't on the main consoles, but they capture the essence of the Budokai games perfectly on the handheld gem that was the PlayStation Portable. The same goes for Dragon Ball Z Tenkaichi Tag Team. It literally feels like a handheld version of Budokai Tenkaichi 3. I even did a separate video on this game that you can check out in the top right corner on the screen right now. The PSP Dragon Ball Z games perfectly took the Budokai and Budokai Tenkaichi games and tweaked it for its suitability. But moving on to the PS3 and the Xbox 360 generation though, Dragon Ball Z Burst Limit is also one that you can consider part of the Budokai series, with the way it plays and feels. The engine is very much the Budokai engine, and it takes a lot of elements from the PSP Shin Budokai game, so I guess it could be a spin-off or main game, or maybe even a spiritual successor. I was talking to someone on Twitter about it, and we didn't seem to really know where to fit it, but it's definitely part of the Budokai series in some way, shape or form. And then we get the Dragon Ball Raging Blast games. Dragon Ball Raging Blast 1 and 2. You can make the same argument for these being spiritual successors to the Budokai Tenkaichi games as well. Gameplay and mechanics and combos are almost identical to the Tenkaichi games. What Burst Limit and Raging Blast do, instead of blatantly ripping off their predecessors though, is they take elements and gameplay and then they add a little spin and make it their own and forge their own identity. So if you want to consider Burst Limit a part of Budokai, that's okay. And if you want to consider Raging Blast a part of Budokai Tenkaichi, then that's fine. But I think that the better term for these games is spiritual successors. One game that is not a spiritual successor though is this cursed game, Dragon Ball Z Ultimate Tenkaichi. To know why this game deserves to be condemned and sent to hell and forgotten and straight up burnt, click the video on screen right now. Like and subscribe.